Hello, hello. Here we go again. We are on episode 7 of the complete Residents discography. I decided to go through their entire 50-some year career and go through nearly everything. There might be some things I skip. I most definitely skip things that are download only.
Yeah.
So we left off last episode. They finished their 13th anniversary tour, and Snakefinger, who had been a longtime collaborator since the early 70s, had died. So here we are in 1987. And the first thing we're going to cover is the Snaky Wake. This was recorded for Snakefinger's Wake, obviously. It was only a limited edition CD for many years, UWeb CD, and it was very rare. Like, it was really hard to come by or hear in any way. I think finally there was like an excerpt of it on some compilation. I'm having a blank right now which one it was, but I really hunted for this for a long time in my earlier Residents collecting days. But yeah, it's about a 20-minute studio piece that starts off with 6 More Miles, which had previously, the last year, been on the Stars and Hank Forever album. Very sad album, obviously. This is the vinyl. I put this on vinyl. It keeps... I don't mean to keep trying to plug my crap, but I'm not, because again, it's not available. But yeah, very beautiful gatefold here that I released a few years back. This is the second Residents album I did. Gorgeous packaging from Lacey, but autographed by the Residents. I brought this to one of their shows. I'm not usually an autograph guy, but if it's something more personal like this, something I'm working with someone, and I've been a fan for a long time, so I did have them sign it. But this is one of our biggest sellers, actually. In all, there's 1,000 copies of these, which is crazy. I can't think of anything that even needs 1,000 copies anymore. But yeah, there was 3 different color variations and a black variation that I gave to MVD, which is their US major label, so they could sell some. Early copies came with a little patch. I can't remember what kind of patch this is. Embroidered little sad morning resident in the rain patch. Yeah, the vinyl has, one side is the studio recording, the other side is the actual live at the Wake recording, where they released Black Balloons into the air. Yeah, very sad days for the Residents here. I really like this album, obviously. So in March 1988, they release God in Three Persons. And this is one of my favorite albums of all time. It seems like I'm saying that a lot, but considering how much stuff they've released, it really isn't. I'm not saying it that much. I feel like I say it about once an episode, though. But yeah, it's a story album with like talking resident. I think it's the first one like this. So it would become a bigger thing in later years with a lot of Randy talking resident, whatever you want to call him, going back and forth between singing and talking and narrating, in his very smooth Southern voice that he's kind of more getting into here. A lot less of the abrasive duck stab era voices and more of just this smooth Southern, which I love. I think this is one of their best albums. They brought back some like analog synths for this one. I think there's real drums in here. Snakefinger was supposed to play on this, but he does not. There's a little thing about him, 1949, 1987 on the back. Yeah.
Souls those that were so I set on Mr. X who wants to come and who expects to help and guide your efforts. He said Mr. X indeed and hugged me. Somehow hard to stand by those that were so worthless to them both. Shouting at the seedy gang behind them may not have much value in my eyes, but they were people and were deep. What it said, it must be you. Sees himself as too good to do something. What was even worse was that I saw that they preferred their gutter-rutting friends above my smugly strutting them. She smiled and burned a hole in me. A hole that was too hard for me to hide. But in his leg, between his cuffs, where the zipper stopped, his legs were down. So we rolled in spotless to a point 2 feet above the floor, warm. Yes, my life was nearly ruined until I saw what you were doing. Now I strive to keep on serving. The aisle exploded great, while I smile and masquerade as the kindly keeper of the touch. And the dumbest would be talking. I thought of flies and stuff to sticky pecan pies that people put upon the windowsill. And how those back. Take your clothes off. Like a lady. Like a bold common. So I slit the hole in you, you turned your head into a wound that takes the party's man upon the ground. For pain and pleasure are the twins, but slightly out of focus.
In June of 1988, they released an instrumental version. It slimmed down to a single LP. It's just instrumental, shorter versions of the other album. So we don't really need to go through this because it sounds just like what we just went through on the regular album, but without vocals. But yeah, it's actually very good. I'd also like to point out that this is kind of the beginning of the very digital, cold, Rompler synthesizer era. So this one really sticks out because, like I said before, that they busted out some old analog synths for this, and it just has a way better organic band sound to it. So I think that's one of the reasons why this one has always stood out, and I never really thought about that until now. Not only did they do the double LP version and the single LP instrumental version, but they also had a couple singles from it. In May of 1988, they released the Double Shot single. It's not from the album. It's a cover of the song Double Shot that they actually first did on the Third Reich and Roll, but it's kind of done to the music. The same music that was in God in Three Persons, if that makes any sense. And the B-sides have to do with God in Three Persons. This is another single that I no longer have, but all the tracks are on this new deluxe CD set from Cherry Red, which, as you can see, is still sealed because I bought a bunch of shit for this video series. So I'll be cracking this open to play that for you. Little snippets. Yeah. Then in August 1988, there's another single, Holy Kiss of Flesh. Both these singles were originally released as 3-inch CDs. It's a thing you don't really see around much anymore. Double Shot did have a 7-inch version. Holy Kiss of Flesh does not. It was only a 3-inch CD. I also sold that one, but it is also on here. So we'll listen to that. It's a much longer, kind of like almost like dancier, like remix of the song from the album. And again, some like instrumental B-sides on it. All good stuff. Whole lot of awesome God in Three Persons stuff. October 1988, they release another Santa Dog. So the thing, I don't think I talked about this before. The thing with the Santa Dogs is, first came out in 72, then they redid it in 78 to signify the that late 70s sound, the duck stab sound, that they're going in, which was totally different than the early stuff. And then they actually recorded one in 84 just because they're like, hey, they're 6 years apart. Should we do another one? And then they decided it was pointless and they didn't release it at the time. And then now in 1988, they decide that Santa Dogs should come out when there's a big significant change. And yes, there's been a big change. Snakefinger's gone. The sound is changing a lot, both in vocals and the gear that the residents are using. So they did, Santa Dog 1988, and it was released as a UWeb CD. I think it was free if you're a member of UWeb. It might be my favorite Santa Dog. I really like the original, and I really like this one. And I go back and forth which one I like the most. I like this way more than the 78 version that I thought was kind of pointless. But yeah, Santa Dog 88. Again, I don't have it, but again, it is on the Santa Dog collection that I put out on vinyl, so that's how we will hear it. In the last episode, I talked about how they did Collijah to death. So let's get back to that. January 1989, they released yet another version. I think this is the third single release. The first one was the regular version. The second one was the dance version and the housey version that we, I didn't even mention that, but I did show a clip of it in the last episode where it's just sort of like the vocal track through a ton of reverb. That's an actual remix they released. And now in 1989, they released the housey version. And once again, I don't have it, but it's on the American Composer Series CD set that recently came out. All right, now we get into another big Residents project. Yet another one they're starting here. January 1989, Buckaroo Blues comes out. Yet another UWeb CD. UWeb CDs are some of the best Residents CDs there are. And later, the Ralph America stuff, which we'll get to when that comes out. But yeah, this stuff is all really well done. It's not too over the top, nothing crazy about packaging or anything, just very nice, classy, good artwork, well done. But yeah, Buckaroo Blues. So this is maybe like a 20-minute piece. It's of cowboy songs and, some classic traditional stuff like Bury Me Not, stuff like that. Again, really good. Still, you could hear like kind of sadness in the Residents. They're still mourning, I feel like. But yeah, it's really good. It's very digital synth sound, which is what they're starting to really get into here. But the vocals really, really carry the album. And there's also some bonus tracks on here. The God in Three Persons Overture and a very long version of Land of a Thousand Dances and Double Shot. But this is a really great CD. UWeb number 3. This is their third release, I guess. Great stuff. This is one of my favorite EPs. I really like this album. Never been on vinyl. This is one that I was planning on doing before I kind of stopped doing stuff. Real shame this has never been on vinyl, and I should be the one to do it if that happens.
and our graves is 6 by 3. We buried them.
In August of 1989, a book came out of Residents' lyrics, and in the back is a 7-inch single for Plains to Mexico, which is from the Buckaroo Blues piece that we'll get to later, but is not on that CD, if that makes any sense. This is not on that CD. This is another like cowboy song with very digital synths. This is still in the original shrink wrap, which it's been in for over 35 years, if I can do math. But yeah, pretty cool book. October 1989. This is one that I hear people talk bad about, and this is one of my favorite albums. I kind of really love this era, obviously, and the last few albums I've mentioned, Snaky Wake, God in Three Persons, Buckaroo Blues, and The King and I. This is all Elvis covers, but I should point out this is a good time to mention that whole American Composer series that was supposed to go into the year 2000 and cover 20 artists. It's abandoned. It was abandoned. So this is not one of those. I'll quickly explain why it was abandoned. The whole thing with the American Composer series is there's two sides of a record. Each side of the record was a different composer. As CDs came in and became the new thing, you couldn't do that. It was going to be one after the other. So it seems like, yeah, it just kind of wrecks the whole like equal sides thing. If one has to be first, one has to be last. Also, because of the CD was like this big thing that everyone wanted to cash in on. And so all of a sudden, everyone is jumping on older music and buying the rights to it to like put on CD and whatnot. And that makes, I think, licensing covers and stuff like that, prices just go crazy, and suddenly it's not so easy for them to do these cover albums and stuff. It's more expensive. The CD makes it not make any sense. Also, I always thought they're wasting too much time covering other people's stuff. I'd rather have them writing stuff. So I wasn't really too disappointed in that. And they still cover plenty of stuff, so big deal. But anyways, back to this. Full album of Elvis covers. I'm also a big Elvis fan, and I gotta say, this is kind of better. These versions are great. You get, again, some really awesome Randy singing resident, whatever you want to call it. Between his singing and his ranting and his telling the story of the baby king to some children, it is awesome. And I can't express that enough, how cool this album is. One of the best cover albums ever made. I love this record.
Now go, cat, go, but don't you step on my face, knock me down, step on my face, slander my name all over, don't you step on my blue suede shoes, no. He worked and he worked and he worked so hard to be a king, and never let go of it in his mind all the time. Made your mind or something else. Don't break room. friends say I'm acting wild as a bug. I'm in love. Oh, good girl. See me standing on my own two feet. How do you think when you have someone just understand? Box this time I sent it special. Telling everyone in town of his latest flame. Well, he talked and talked.
So what all these pieces are that I'm talking about with Buckaroo Blues and King and I, the Plains to Mexico single that's part of the Buckaroo Blues, and this tape that comes out, also October 1989, same month as the King and I, the Blackberry tape. These are the three pieces of Cub E, the history of American music in three easy pieces. So you got your cowboy music, you got your Blackberry. This is kind of like traditional, like from like slave songs to like old traditional, like black folk music kind of thing. And those two things equal Elvis. I think that's what it is. Cowboy music plus Blackberry equals Elvis, and that's American music in a nutshell. So, this tape is kind of weird. This is one of the early Cub E shows. It's not a studio Blackberry, unfortunately, and it never got a studio album. And I think that's one of the big misses in their stuff. This is the Thrown Away Man album, and never finishing the or releasing or whatever a Blackberry studio album. This tape is just live, and it doesn't have the King and I version. It's just one side is Blackberry, the other side is the Buckaroo Blues part of the show. Kind of weird release, but it is what it is. I think it's only been on tape. Maybe it's in the CD box set. Yeah, I think it is in the recent CD box set. But yeah, it was never on vinyl or anything, and there's no studio Blackberry. Bummer.
We were lying on the prairie, with our heads upon our saddle, and a campfire burning at the head of a rough Texas red.
In April of 89, no, April of 90, Don't Be Cruel was released as a 7-inch single with B-sides Don't and Surrender, which are outtakes from the King and I album. There's also a CD version of this that had some extra instrumental, very digital MIDI songs on it. Like Ghost Music and Toy Factory or something like that. But all that stuff is in the Cub E box set that recently came out. So, yeah, there's those.
Don't. That's what you say is way. Saying I wanna kiss you, baby. Don't say don't. Learning this strange desire, and I know it's down my kiss. So my darling, please surrender.
Also in April 1990, real quick, there's another UWeb CD called Liver Music. That was all kind of like rare live stuff. I think it's the first time we heard a little bit of the 1971 boarding house show. Maybe that had the Oh Mummy Oh Daddy 1976 live at the record store show. Yeah, it just had all this stuff on it. I don't have it. I'm pretty sure all that stuff has been released on other stuff now. So October 1990, UWeb releases their only vinyl release, Stranger Than Supper. We heard a little bit of this for the Man's World single. It's got a nice bunch of like rare tracks, including the Studio Susanna, another part of Buckaroo Blues that for some reason isn't on the Buckaroo Blues CD. New Orleans, which is a little studio recording from Blackberry, but it's just a little instrumental part. But yeah, great little compilation. This is the only thing they released, I think, that was a big commercial release you could get in record stores. So the rest of their stuff was just like limited edition mail order CDs. And we're going to finish this with the Cub E show. We already covered the Blackberry tape, so some of it. But October 1990, you got your Live in Holland Cub E album, double LP, that has, the whole show, Buckaroo Blues, Blackberry, Baby King. So it was also released in 2006. There was like this giant box CD. Like it wasn't a box set. It was like one CD in a big oversized box that I think is the same show, but maybe like more of it or remixed or something. It's expensive and I don't think it's worth it. And then there's the recent Cub E box set. So the thing with this show is it's the 13th anniversary show is awesome. Everyone loves it. This one, not so much. And I never really got super into this album, any of the live recordings. It's kind of good, mostly for the Blackberry part because that's the only way you can hear it. But I never really thought about it till I was doing this. And the reason is it's not as good is, well, a couple things. There's no Snakefinger. So there's no like real acoustic instrument being played. There's no like live playing. I think this is like mostly, if not all, like sequenced, late 80s synthesizers. They're very impressive and in the time, but now they sound a bit dated. The reason I have the camera set up like this for this video is these synthesizers are the actual resident synthesizers of this era. Some of them, not all of them, but those are them. And I don't mean the same models. I mean, those are the residents. I don't know if you can see the screen, but the top one like has, it's their double shot patches up. Land of a Thousand Dances, Holy Kiss of Flesh, God in Three Persons Overture, Santa Dog. Yeah, their patches that they're from the Cub E show are still in there. Yeah, there's like the cowboy and the Cub E preset. So yeah, these are the synths from their studio. Got the Cryptic Corporation sticker right on there. They all have the Cryptic Corporation sticker on. So that's cool. But yeah, so these synthesizers sound very dated, but you can make that work depending on what you're doing. But like I said, it kind of suffers from having no one playing like a guitar or anything. Like the Mole show had live acoustic instruments mixed in with the keyboards. 13th Anniversary had Snakefinger. And this one is just vocals and these very digital synths. A lot of people, I've heard people over the years be like, oh, I hate that era of synthesizers. It sounds like MIDI. MIDI doesn't have a sound. MIDI is a communication port. It's it was invented by Dave Smith from Sequential Circuits. It's so all synthesizers and drum machines can talk to each other and be in sync, and I can play this keyboard but be playing that. It doesn't have a sound. Even my 1970s synthesizers, I now have MIDI on them. I can play any keyboard. I can play any synthesizer from any keyboard basically in here. So yeah, but what they really mean is there was in this era this general MIDI like sound set, and it's all like super generic, like supposed to sound like acoustic instruments, like like guitar sounds, organ sounds, drums, really dated horn sounds, all that stuff. And they got real into this when this stuff came out. Like the residents got, all these racks. And so that's what their studio and their live set was based on. And that's how it sounds. So yeah, it didn't age as well. Also, I don't think they had great technology for singing with a mask on. This has always sounded like really muffled. Like the vocals are all like this. So that's another thing. that's where we're going to stop for this one. And the next episode is another like real doozy with a lot of favorites of mine in it. And then things get a little weird. Yeah. So come back next time. We'll learn all about some freaks and whatnot.